This is our only chance. We have to take it. We need Kong. The world needs him to stop what's coming. And this child, she's the only one he'll communicate with.
I knew that they had a bond. She had nowhere to go, so I made a promise to protect her. And I think that in some way, Kong did the same. It's Godzilla.
These are dangerous times.
Godzilla's out there and he's hurting people and we don't know why.
There's something provoking him that we're not seeing here.
I'm of the same opinion.
The myths are real. There was a war. And they're the last ones standing.
I keep reaching for greatness because I'm built from it.
Who bows to who?
Nobody gon' stop for me. Here we go.
Kong bows to no one.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This is going to be my Godzilla vs. Kong trailer video. I'll explain what's going on with the movie. There's a whole bunch of Easter eggs here for the classic version of this, the 1962 King Kong vs. Godzilla film. So if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. This is Warner Brothers' next big movie in their plan for 2021 movies to release all of them on HBO Max. So we'll do giveaways for subscriptions. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave your favorite moment from the trailer on the video. If you're not a big fan of the classic Godzilla films or King Kong films, I know this seems a lot like Batman v Superman, like make two titans fight who's going to win and who winds up being the real villain of the film, because it seems like they will eventually team up, similar to the plot of Batman v Superman. Like, even though they're fighting here, clearly someone is manipulating Godzilla to attack mankind, like you see this big Tokyo fight, when Godzilla is supposed to be a friend to mankind, especially after the last film saving the planet from King Ghidorah. And because we're talking about this modern franchise of Godzilla and King Kong films, you go back to Kong Skull Island, Kong was also a good character during that. So why would they fight unless they had a version of Lex Luthor manipulating both of them to fight, and who winds up being the real villain of the film? There's some rumors about that I'll explain, but the movie itself is coming out March 26th, and we make jokes about Batman v Superman, but the Justice League Snyder Cut, Zack Snyder also did Batman v Superman, is also coming out in March. But Millie Bobby Brown and Kyle Chandler, her father, are back from Godzilla King of Monsters, along with a lot of the Monarch characters. Some of the new ones are Alexander Skarsgård, the kid from Deadpool 2, Ezia Gonzalez. I don't know exactly what she's going to be doing during the film, but she might be working with the other organization that I'll explain in a second. Rebecca Hall seems like another good character working with Alexander Skarsgård, a sort of Kong expert who's taking care of this little girl here who has a special connection with Kong. They made the joke in the last film, though, that the people are essentially the pets of the Titans, like she'd be Kong's pet, not the other way around, even though she's holding up this Kong doll, seeming like she's summoning him like a golem or worshipping him somehow. The other really big thing that everyone's talking about is that Kong got a huge size upgrade. He has been working out or juicing or something like that, because normally he would be way smaller than Godzilla. Like, you think about the actual scale of the Titans. Normally you think of King Kong, you think about him climbing the Empire State Building, but here it looks like he towers over the city skyline. Like, they're meant to be about the same size, and I think that's exactly why they made him bigger, so that in this Batman v Superman matchup that they're hyping, even though it's a bit of a misdirect, they seem like they're relatively evenly matched, because King Kong doesn't really have any secret powers, And Godzilla is already almost invulnerable, has his atomic breath power from the first film. Then from the second film, he had that new power, the atomic burst, that red power. And during this film, he's also supposed to show off another new power. So that's like 3 special powers to King Kong's 0 powers. Like he can fashion weapons there. And the really cool thing about the weapon that he does fashion, that axe that he has, is that if you can't tell from the fact that it's glowing in blue, just like Godzilla when he lights up, it's made from one of his dorsal spikes. So I'm assuming that in one of their earlier fights, he's able to damage Godzilla, one of the spikes falls off, then he uses that to fashion the special weapon for their next really, really big fight, which seems like it's happening in Tokyo. That's another thing that they haven't really done in the newer modern Godzilla films, is they haven't taken him back to Tokyo in a really, really big way. But that seems like a big classic deep cut, because normally that's where he'd be in his films. Even though they don't get into it too much during this, if you look at the IMDb page, you can see that a lot of people are cast as workers for an organization called Apex, and I believe that they're supposed to be the villains of the film, sort of like an evil version of Monarch that's exploiting Titans for profit and for weaponry. They kind of got into that during the last film, like they said that people were trying to harvest Titan DNA, like you have Charles Dance's character who's this eco-terrorist, but then there are a lot of other governments around the world that they were talking about that want to get their hands on Titans to weaponize them. Apex is one of the organizations that they're talking about. You see a couple big boss fights before their big fight too, like you see King Kong fighting a couple other Titans. These flying snake Titans might be the Nozuki. You also see what might be the flying bat Titan later in the trailer too. But then Godzilla, Kong, and the other rumored actual main villain of the film won't be the only Titans in the film. There'll be a bunch of other ones too, because remember, there were 17 of them that they showed off in the last film on that map. The big fight that they have on the aircraft carriers too is supposed to be an homage to the classic King Kong versus Godzilla fight. And I know it's weird that they switched the title, like the classic film is titled King Kong versus Godzilla. Why would they title the modern version of the film Godzilla versus King Kong, reversing the credits? Like, why would they give Godzilla top billing? It's mostly because they're positioning Godzilla as the main character, the real main character in this situation. Like, even though in Batman v Superman, they're both about the same level of popularity, and Superman is basically meant to be a god on Earth. But when you think about it, the Godzilla films themselves are much more popular than the King Kong film. So it just sounds like they plan to continue with Godzilla films, and this is going to be one of the final King Kong films. Like, I'm not expecting to see a third King Kong film with this version of Kong, so if he continues within this Godzilla universe of new modern films, he just probably shows up in other Godzilla films, assuming that they don't wind up fridging one of these main Titans. You also think about the last film too, Godzilla is already king of the monsters, king of the Titans, so it's not like Kong is going to become king of the Titans or anything like that. This is obviously just the first trailer, so they're not really giving you a lot of the story. They're just giving you some of the highlights from probably like the first half of the film up to the first big Tokyo fight, like when everything is neon. But I think that most of this footage is really only from like the first part of the film before you find out what's going on with the real villains, the Apex organization. So there'll probably be more of them in the second trailer, and maybe they'll wind up doing the Doomsday thing that they did during the Batman v Superman trailers, where they actually reveal who the real villain of the film is going to be, so that they can team up together just like in Batman v Superman. Millie Bobby Brown's character claims that Godzilla is being manipulated by someone, so the evil Apex organization might have some version of the Orca or something else like that they're using to force Godzilla to destroy all these different places around the planet. But just turning the timeline a little bit, because it's been a while since we saw that Kong Skull Island movie, that takes place during the 1970s, so if they bring back Tom Hiddleston's character or reference him in some way, remember that he'd be in his like late 70s or early 80s during the events of this film, so don't expect young Tom Hiddleston to be running around a whole bunch. It kind of seems like this franchise is turning into Millie Bobby Brown's franchise, just because she seems like a much bigger character than she was during the first film. But the really big rumor, though, about the main villain is that the real villain of the film is going to wind up being Mecha Godzilla, and that's who they'll eventually team up to wind up taking down, and Apex themselves, the evil organization, will be responsible for creating Mecha Godzilla. And I think it has something to do with them tying back to that idea of them harvesting Titan DNA, like harvesting parts of King Ghidorah and using that to create Mecha Godzilla, a weapon against Godzilla. I think we get a few peeks of that during the trailer. Like you see in the background here, this actually looks kind of like Mechagodzilla. And then behind this dude on this display here, this might be an Apex lab. You see battery charging in this outline of what looks like Mechagodzilla on a readout. But everyone, let me know in the comments, what do you think is actually going on? Because this is clearly a misdirect and Godzilla's a good character. And which new Titan from the classic Godzilla films that we haven't seen yet do you think that they're going to eventually team up to fight? Because the movie's coming out March 26th, there'll probably be another trailer sometime during February, and they'll just start releasing a whole bunch more footage, so we'll probably find out pretty quickly. But everyone, click here for my full WandaVision Episode 3 video and Marvel Easter eggs, and click here for my brand new Thor 4 teaser and learn about what's going on during that film. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.